I'm Heather Litzbauer from NW Financial, and also with us is Devin DeFonseca. We were brought in by the mayor and council, one, to look at eligibility of uses for the projects to make sure that whatever's decided, the projects that are decided, that they're eligible under the final rule, which is over 400 pages, so a lot of information to digest. And two, to make sure that there is backup data on the projects, the reporting is done correctly. With any federal program, they always get audited down the road. And since every community in the United States is involved with this, I'm sure things will be looked at for several years past. Just to give you a summary of the American Rescue Plan, it was a $1.9 trillion stimulus package that was passed in March of 2021. And it's similar to the CARES Act funding that was done in 2020. It just builds upon that, and there's additional projects that are authorized. $350 billion is dedicated to state and local funds for projects. So each community, each local government, each county government, state, and school districts received funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. The school districts, they receive them, it's called a different program, it's through ESSER funds. But the city of Harrisburg, the school district, received over $50 million for school district projects, which is separate and apart from the city's funds, which is just over $47 million. The key objectives of the plan is to maintain public service that you already currently have, fight the pandemic through testing centers, vaccination programs, things that people don't have to pay for, and provide support to struggling families, businesses, nonprofits, and then long-term growth and opportunity by building a stronger community. There are four examples or four main sectors of projects that are authorized. Public sector revenues, public health and economic response, premium pay for essential workers, and then water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The first section, public sector revenues, that's focused on the city's budget and if the city had any revenue loss. There's two ways to look at revenue loss. The federal government is allowing communities to take a $10 million standard allowance of revenue loss where you don't actually have to calculate it, or you can calculate the revenue loss on an annual basis for the next 4 years to see if you had more than the standard allowance. A larger city like Harrisburg, I know that they are working on the calculations to see how much they actually lost in the budget, and they'll make a determination of whether they'll use the standard allowance or do the calculations moving forward. The revenue loss item, basically you would just put the revenue loss in the budget, and it would offset other expenses in your budget or new capital projects. There's a lot of flexibility when you use the funds for revenue loss. You could use it to build roads, you could use it for salaries of employees, any sort of capital project, anything that's a normal government service, the funds can be used for. The second area is public health and economic response. That's responding to the pandemic and any of its negative economic responses, so testing, vaccination sites, mental health and counseling, job training, affordable housing, community violence intervention programs, gun violence programs are some of the examples of things that are underneath that category. The next is premium pay for essential workers. That's defined at up to $13 an hour to a maximum of $25,000 per employee that worked in person during the pandemic. And then the last category is water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And that's basically to help any water and sewer projects getting high-speed internet connection to communities that don't already have it. Certain projects that are included in this category is lead remediation and lead service line replacement, any flood mitigation projects, green infrastructure, any projects that would help increase drinking quality, and then management and treatment of stormwater. There's an email address that was included in the invite to the programs that you can submit questions online. So we've received a couple of questions from the public, and we just wanted to go over those questions and answers. And as they're received over the next couple of days, we'll be answering the questions, and then they'll be posted online. The first question was about making State Street safer through the Zero Tolerance Initiative from 13th Street to 20th Street. And would it be possible to use the funds for education PSAs on how vehicles should drive along this residential areas, and can slow down bumper strips be part of the plan? And the easy response is that yes, that anything that within a qualified census tract, which 13 areas out of 16 in the city of Harrisburg is considered a qualified census tract. So there's a greater variety of projects that can be done in those areas. One is neighborhood features to improve health and safety outcomes. So making any streets safer would be eligible under the American Rescue Plan if the streets are within a qualified census tract. Another question was adding protected bike lanes to Midtown and downtown. Examples are 3rd Street and 2nd Street, east to west, connecting downtown Midtown to Allison Hill, and the Greenbelt area where Market Street, Mulberry Street, Harris Street, Maclay Street. Improve sidewalks, road crossings, and other public spaces throughout the city to make it safer for people to walk, which improves mental and physical health. Again, if the streets are within a qualified census tract, then they would be eligible for these improvements. There are some areas that were mentioned, 3rd Street, 2nd Street, and Maclay Street, that depending on where the improvements would be done, fall outside of a qualified census tract. So it would have to be within a qualified census tract, which there is the federal government through HUD has a map of the city and shows the neighborhoods that fall within a qualified census tract. So predominantly, that could be done as long as it's in a tract. Another question was small businesses. If they receive federal funds from the PPP and various state and local grants, but they used up those funds and are continuously losing money with the lack of business coming to them, would they be eligible for American Rescue Plan funds? And yes, impacted small businesses that have a decrease in revenue or gross receipts or increased costs would be eligible for ARP funds if they're mitigating financial hardship by using the funds to pay for payroll or hiring back employees, pay for rent, mortgage assistance, utility costs, or operating costs. Another question was on whether the city could build a dental clinic, and would it need to be in a disproportionately impacted community. And could they serve the general public, including those outside the disproportionately impacted community? Right now, we have looked through the final rule, and it's unclear if a dental clinic would be eligible under the final rule. So if this was something that the city was interested in doing, we'd have to talk to the Treasury Department about it. Within the final rule, they talk about medical facilities and that they would be eligible within a qualified census tract. However, there's nothing talking about a dental clinic. It's more of a general practitioner type establishment. So we've seen some clinics where it would be for general health, and then they also have dental health within that. That may be eligible, but more research would have to be done on that. Then the last question that we received online was, can we build a low-income housing facility? Does it need to be located in a disproportionately impacted community? And yes, the city can build affordable housing within a disproportionately impacted community, and most likely can be built in other areas of the city that are not disproportionately impacted. In the final rule, there's a reference of putting housing across the recipient's jurisdiction and not necessarily within a qualified census tract. With any capital expense that's over $1 million, there needs to be a justification of the capital expense. So the city would have to give a description of the harm or the need to be addressed, an explanation of why a capital expenditure is appropriate, and then a comparison of the proposed capital expenditure against alternative capital expenditures for affordable housing. So those are 5 questions that were received online. As people submit them through Facebook Live or through the email address, we'll be answering them and they'll be posted on the website. I think now we'd like to open it up to the public to see if you have any questions. Even if you want clarification on anything, I know that was a pretty quick overview. Sure. So a qualified census tract is something that the federal government comes up with for communities, and the definition, I believe, is if 50% or more households in the area are below 60% of the median area income, then that area is designated a qualified census tract. There's a website through the federal government, through HUD, that has an actual map, so you can look at the city of Harrisburg. There's 16 different tracts, and 13 of them fall within qualified census tracts. And within the American Rescue Plan, the legislation talks about disproportionately impacted communities and how they would like the funds to be used to help those disproportionately impacted communities. If the area falls within a qualified census tract, you automatically are part of a disproportionately impacted community. So this neighborhood that we're in right now is within a qualified census tract, so you have more lenient, you can do more things with the funds in a qualified census tract. And I'll give some examples of projects that you could do within a qualified census tract. So a big one would be mortgage or rental relief. Because it's in a qualified census tract, you're already looked at as a disproportionately impacted community, so you could do a program like that to help residents. Repairs to homes can occur in disproportionately impacted communities. Some other things. Addressing educational disparities, so you can have specific school programs that help the youth. Improvements to vacant and abandoned properties, so cleanup, helping remediation as well of properties that are contaminated. So there's a couple of examples. You know, you had a question?
I think we should use a lot of funds. Well, hopefully that PennDOT won't put the highway on Paxton Street, because I think that's silly, because we have a lot of residents over here. Kids might get hit or something. So I'd like to see the outcome of that one. And a lot of senior citizens live down this way, and a lot of them lose their homes. So maybe you could put an extra fund or something. They at a certain age and they retire, or they do because they got some illness. Some money should be on the side for them, but they won't have to lose their home. Because a lot of them lose their home. They've been in their home for 40, 50 years and working hard. And so the tax is so high, they end up losing their home. And I think we should use the funds, part of that maybe, to help them out. I mean, I think they deserve that, especially if they've been working in the city for 30, 40 years and they retired. You know, they pay the school taxes too. School taxes are just outrageous. You know, somebody's not working anymore, they retire, they're not getting that money like that no more. They end up losing their homes. You know, and nobody's trying to help the senior citizens out here. And we have a lot of senior citizens in this area and stuff. And like to see like the homes to be much better. You know, the business out here on Paxton Street, they did it on the hill, like we can see and stuff. Why we can't, you know, do that in the south side of Harrisburg for a change? You know, now you got the money to do something, and I'm going to be paying attention, looking at y'all to see what you're going to do with the money. You know, especially in this area, because they always neglect this area all the time for many years, and it ain't right. You know, I'm not too big on a water park. It's all right, you know, you got the money to put it in there, yeah, but there's some other issues that we can put in our own community right here in the south side of Harrisburg. But, you know, one of my main concerns, though, is that don't try to push our peoples out the neighborhood neither, like they did at Uptown. They fixed it up and everything to push our peoples out of there. Please don't do that.
I don't want to speak for the mayor. She's not here, Regina.
I'm not saying the mayor. I ain't say no names.
No.
I'm just saying what I would like to see, and I would like to see not to try to push it out the neighborhood. That's all.
At the last meeting on Thursday, the mayor did mention that she wants to prioritize seniors. So I think that is being looked at. She did mention that. She was on the record saying that. And part of these outreach meetings is to hear the mayor and city council want to hear what the public would like to do with the funds. So, you know, they can pick projects that people are going to be happy with. So I know they're going to appreciate your comments.
Maybe for next time, maybe mail a piece of paper or flyer letting people know in the neighborhood that you having a meeting, because everybody don't go on Facebook and everybody don't look on the city page neither. You know, I'm just saying. But you know, a lot of people don't come either because they sick and tired of being sick and tired, the same old thing over and over again. So, you know, we just trying to get change in our neighborhood. But, you know, look out for the senior citizens, you know, for a change. You know, they work hard for many years, nobody looking out for them, they losing their homes. And it ain't right, you know? make a monument cameras and stuff. You know, please. Because we have a lot of programs. We definitely have a lot of youth programs. People just got to go up there, bring their kids there. And there's good programs out there for them too. But thank you.
Just to answer some of your questions, like Heather said, housing for the seniors is a priority for the mayor. Affordable housing is a priority for the mayor. And you said something about the pool down there in the water park. Every year, the kids get 30 days at the pool. That pool, in my opinion, I don't know about anybody else's, is a money pit. And it should be turned into a water park where the water can be recycled, where the kids can go and cool off all summer long instead of just 30 days, and not put fish in the pool to go fishing when you can go somewhere else to go fishing. To me, you might not agree, and everybody else in here might not agree, but I think it would be utilized better that way if it's turned, that and Jackson Lick, turned into a water park, like they have at Hershey Park. Maybe not that extravagant, but a water park where the kids can go to, and that's a qualified item to finance and get this money. But seniors, yes, we're looking at them. Affordable housing, yes, we're looking at that. So I'm glad you brought it up, but I hope I answered your question. That's what this is what these meetings are for. And I'm trying to answer. I'm trying to answer. But listen. Okay, but tonight's meeting is not about trucks coming in and out. Listen, so I can have control over the meeting, Richard, because we're not doing this tonight, okay? Tonight's meeting, people on this TV, hello. Tonight's meeting is about the ARPA money and what we can do with it and what we can't do with it. And what he just stated, we cannot use the money for that. But we can use it for senior citizens and housing and affordable housing and that swimming pool, the ideal suggestion that I just gave. Thank you.
On my way here, I traveled south on Cameron Street, and I noticed that there's 3 public housing complexes in the same area. Hanover Day, Hillside Village, I can't remember that. Smith Homes. And I noticed that there's quite a few kids in that area, but they don't have a facility like Boys and Girls Club. And that's something that maybe should be considered. Because like I said, there's 3 public housing projects in that area. And I'm quite sure there's quite a lot of children in that area too. And to expect these children to walk across Cameron to go maybe up to the Camp Herb Y, or like some of my brothers and their friends did, come through Sunshine Park, all hours to come to this facility, I think that a consideration should be to find or build a space for these children that they can come after school, do homework, play basketball, tiddly wings, flag football, whatever else they want to do. And that's just one suggestion I have that you could look into applying some of this money to.
Sure, we have been looking at recreation centers. I was asked at the last meeting. It's unsure whether funds can be used for an indoor recreation center. They give examples within the final rule of things that you cannot use funds for, and it talks about larger congregate facilities like stadiums or indoor basketball arenas. Granted, they're talking on a large scale like in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. But it doesn't talk about a smaller scale recreation center. What they do talk about that is allowed in qualified census tracts is improvements to parks, building new parks. So anything outdoors would definitely be eligible, but it's unsure if something like a new Boys and Girls Club or YMCA or another facility would be eligible with the funds.
But they could use the funds for after-school programs at Downey. Above the hill is the new Bethesda Mission thing. I mean, at 15th and Her. But they can use at any of the schools for that matter. If you have an after-school program, that money, this money qualifies for that.
Any other questions or clarifications?
So do you need like speed bumps out here? The cars fly down the street real fast? Does anybody need any assistance with their mortgage payments, their light, gas, water bill, things like that? If you have a nonprofit, we can assist nonprofits with, say they lost money. Say in year 2020, they made $20,000, just using that. And 2021 came, their $20,000 became $500. They can then apply for this money to fill in that gap of their loss of income for their program. They can apply for this money so that they can bring it back up to par. And for our after-school programs, because I know a lot of the after-school programs took a hit, they can recover from this money. Nonprofits as well. So the Boys and Girls Club, if they were here, are you guys listening? You guys probably could qualify for some of this money to keep your programs going on for the kids here.
Any job training programs too for people that lost their jobs or are looking to get a better job that would be eligible? I think in the first meeting, one of the councilmen discussed childcare being an issue in overnight at some certain communities. So that was something that we're looking at to see if that would be eligible. And we think that it would be if you live within a disproportionately impacted community.
Good evening. One of the eligible uses of part of the ARPA money is broadband infrastructure. Can you speak to that a little bit? Is that something that maybe the city could use to work with a partner to invest across the city, or is it would have to go to, say, like a nonprofit or some other organization to then invest? Like I'm thinking about maybe a partnership with Comcast or Verizon to do infrastructure, or does it need to be smaller organizations to make those investments?
I think you can do either one to areas that either don't have a connection already or do not have the correct speed. Within the final rule, there's specific information on connectivity and upload and download speeds, which I don't have in front of me right now. But I'll get that answered in a question and answer that we can post online. We have seen some communities too that they've, like if this building didn't have connectivity and they wanted to have internet access here for the kids for after school programs, that would be eligible. We've also seen in cities where they've been starting to put connections in their parks. because a lot of children, especially if you live in apartments, there's several kids within a small area, and when remote schooling occurred, they went outdoors. So we have seen that a little bit, but there's several different options, and I'll give more detail to what is required for broadband infrastructure.
Okay, thank you, because I just know when most schools were in remote learning, especially in our city here, we have a lot of broadband access issues. So I'm encouraged to hear that we can maybe partner with parks and other cities and other light poles to maybe put some additional towers to increase access around our community. Thank you.
I also want to say the school district got almost $100 million. So the broadband, we can partner with the school board, the school district, and make it accessible to everyone, so we can use their money as well as our money. But I would encourage the school district to use their money, so we can use our money on something else, because they have a larger pot than we do. But it's not a problem with us partnering with them. And you're right, Verizon or Comcast or someone like that, we can do that. I think somebody was asking us questions about, Richard, I think was, about taxes, if they're back on their taxes and things like that. You can't use this money to get out of debt. It's not used for that. But can we help you pay your mortgage? Yes. Can we help you pay your light bill? Yes. But can we go down to the courthouse and pay your taxes and all that stuff? No. It's not used for that. I meant to say that when he asked that question.
One additional question. So I also noticed that utility assistance is another piece of component. Did they define which utilities can be used for that potential relief? I know typically we talk about utilities about either light, water, but do they consider like a trash bill or any other utilities a part of what would be categorically defined as utility for potential relief? I'll be just transparent because I'm on here, West Major City Council. One of the things that I've heard from a number of constituents is that they got behind on several different bills and they were looking for help, and I've been pointing to some of the relief programs that we had at the city initially and we had the county, but one of those that was unclear for me in answering was like a trash bill. So they got behind on the trash bill because of the pandemic. They were out of work and they were trying to take care of everything else, but got behind on some additional bills that was something that could potentially qualify for relief. I know it's a city service, so that's why I'm asking the question. Thank you.
The final rule doesn't define utility, but it is a separate bill. It's a utility, so I think it would be eligible. What we would have to be careful is if the city is using funds for revenue loss because of people not paying their trash bills, we'd have to look at not commingling both and taking it in one area, not the next. So I think we'd have to be careful there just to make sure that we're adhering to the rule. But I think it would be eligible. Does anyone else have any ideas in this neighborhood, what you'd like the funds to be used for? If there's any issues you see?
I'm going to put her on the spot, but our city council president just walked in. Would you like to come up here and have some words? We'd appreciate it. Okay. How about our Vice President? Asha Green? Oh, we have a question, Ms. Bowers? Yeah, they do. Yep, they do.
That's a very good question. I'm unsure of the answer, but we'll look at it. I know assistance to households within disproportionately impacted communities is something that's eligible, so my first thought is probably, but I'd like to look at it further just to give you a definitive answer. And we'll answer it on the question and answer sheet that we can maybe talk about it tomorrow or Thursday's meeting, and then it'll also be posted online. One thing that is eligible that we talked about at the last meeting was cleanup within the city, within a disproportionately impacted community. So there were some concerns about a lot of trash in different areas and dumping from other communities. So cleaning up properties, getting rid of the trash would be something that's eligible. Any vacant or abandoned properties, the funds could be used for that. If there's, affordable housing development is a hot topic, not only like the building of facilities, but if there was a program to get developers to come into the city to build the homes, you could give seed money to get rid of contamination or clean up the property or help with landscaping, or to just give funds to help build the actual homes. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the funds for affordable housing.
Just a question, I'm Asha Green, Vice President of City Council. A question that I was asked a couple of days ago, can it be used to help start small businesses? I know we talk a lot about small business revenue loss, but what about people trying to start small businesses? Would they have access to these funds?
I think within a disproportionately impacted community, you can. Something that was new was the discussion of technical assistance, business incubators and grants for startups or expansions of businesses within a disproportionately impacted community. So I think that would be something that's eligible.
Okay. Another question, as we talk about disproportionately impacted communities, I know it's like kind of based off of the census tract along with some other factors. And you kind of mentioned that I believe there is all but like 3 areas in the city that are considered disproportionately impacted communities. Do you know the 3 that are not considered disproportionately impacted communities?
There's one neighborhood downtown, I believe it's by State Street. There's one along the river, on the outskirts of the city, and then I believe one to the east. And we have a map too that we can post of the city, and it has the different tracks, and it's colored if it's a census tract.
Okay. And where would it be posted at?
We've posted on the website.
Okay. And then I know at the first meeting there was discussion of there being like a table of contents along with something else that your organization had created that was going to be available to view that night. Is that something that can be posted somewhere publicly, or how would people maybe that are watching be able to have access to that?
Sure, yeah. Our company went through the final rule, because it's over 400 pages, and put a table of contents for the relevant different subjects. So you could look through the table of contents and whatever eligible use you're looking for, you can see it in the table of contents and then go to that specific page rather than reading through everything. So I can provide that tonight, so it can be posted tomorrow.
I think having that available online would be nice for the community. Also, if we could maybe have a copy down in City Hall or somewhere where people could come and view it, physically, in person, other than at these meetings, I think that would be great. As we're having these meetings, I know a lot of people are presenting different ideas, and we're here to listen to these different ideas. Can we kind of talk a little more about what would be processed? So, for instance, if a nonprofit did want to apply for money, that's not a process we've created yet, right? We haven't decided exactly how the money will be spent, so we don't have a process for someone to apply for the money. Is that correct? And, can we just kind of talk about the next step process? Because I think people are, we're having these conversations and talking ideas, but the questions I keep getting is, well, where do I apply? Where can I get rental assistance? Where can I get mortgage assistance? Where can I get the money? And I'm kind of explaining to people we're not exactly at that stage yet. We're still kind of in that idea stage of gathering information from the community, and then those, when we decide how the money is going to be spent as an administration and council, then those processes will be created. Am I correct in that?
Yes. Yeah, this is the planning stage to hear what the community really wants to see the funds used for. And then I believe from there, the mayor and council will meet to discuss a plan of action of how to move forward.
All right. And then just to be clear, Ms. Gina, this Thursday is the last public meeting, correct?
Correct.
And so tomorrow there is a meeting to be held at the HMAC.
Correct.
And then Thursday there is a meeting to be held at the Activities.
Correct.
If someone is not able to make it to any of the previous meetings or upcoming meetings, they can submit their ideas or questions via email.
Correct.
Is there any way that we can create like maybe a survey month or something that can be sent out to people? I know a lot of times that's an easy way of collecting information that people are just comfortable with. Just a basic link like a survey monkey to say, what would you like to see the money spent on? And, it's posted online, it's on Facebook, social media, and people can click it, and then we can have a deadline for them to be able to submit those ideas without having, I know everyone's not that comfortable with email. You'd be surprised, even a lot of these kids, they know technology, but they've never really used email because it's more of a business thing. And then I know a lot of people who have emails and don't know how well to them. So maybe creating something that's a little more user-friendly, they can just click, maybe have a couple of questions about which area you live in, which age group you fall in, and then some other ideas I think would be another way to get the community engaged. Because although we're having these meetings, which is great, I know we're not getting as big of a turnout as we might have liked to see. And so that's just another way to engage people and get more information so we can make the best decision.
It's a great idea.
Melissa, can you tell us what our viewership, after the meeting is over, what our numbers are? Because some people watch live, and then some people come after it's over and watch it. I think our numbers were up to like anywhere from 400 to 800 people, viewers, or something like that. So people are watching it, they're just not watching it live. And Melissa gets all of our questions, and as long as they submit them by 4 o'clock, they get answered. Well, they get asked here, and then if we can't give you the answers, we forward it to them, and then they have a big meeting to get the correct answer and come back. That's what Heather did at the beginning. She read the questions and gave you the answers that they came up with. But Melissa.
And then just one more comment, or I guess comment, that I've been seeing or being asked about. I know we're providing these translation services here. How to take advantage of it? I know I've had people with questions that are doing live saying that they're not able to get the translation services, or that the meeting's not being translated. Can you explain how they work on what people are asking?
Well, the reason why we have Melissa here, because we were in a predominantly Latina community, so if someone from that community came and didn't understand or speak English, she was here to interpret what they were saying. Now, we post everything online, but I can gladly give them Melissa's number and they can call her, because she's fluent in Spanish. Melissa, they can send their question in Spanish. It goes to Melissa first. and she can, ask them the question, the answer, and she can respond back to them in Spanish for them.
Just one final comment on it. It's a great service we provide, but if you can't understand what's being said, you can't really question it either. So maybe have a presentation or a script recorder or something in Spanish, you can post it online so that people who don't speak English or don't, I guess, listen to English, understand English, you can learn it. So they have that opportunity to engage as well.
Point taken. We still have money through our housing department to pay anybody's mortgage, rent, utilities, all those things. We still have money now, prior to even this ARPA money. We have money. That is correct. Denise Hill.
Just so people, I know we had this comment last week, that if you didn't hear on the video, that it's available online to go and apply for the funds. So if any other questions come up over the next couple of days, you can use the email address to submit any questions and we'll answer them and get the response back. It's communications@harrisburgpa.gov.
It's just a comment. Ms. Robinson was talking about the Hispanic population, but down here there's a large Asian population too that lives in one little area, and there are language barriers there.
Okay.
She probably knows that.
I'm sorry?
Asian population, Ivy Lane area. And they come out, and they're very strong voters, but there is a language barrier. And I'm sure they would want to participate.
I think you're right. I think, is it Vietnamese? Yeah, it's a gigantic Vietnamese community. We just have to go through the, I'm gonna say language line. Let me get a little closer because Ms. Green can't hear me. She explained it to me last time. You probably can get in touch with a language line or someone like that to interpret for us for Vietnamese. I'm not sure if we have any Vietnamese employees that could reach out. Okay. I'll get back to you.
Well, while you're right here, could this money that we're speaking about be used to put like interpretation services in some of these tract areas where, you have a large community?
Probably.
Could she answer, could we use the money for that?
I would think it probably would be an eligible use because it's about the funds. Because any marketing or any expenses on using the American Rescue Plan money would be eligible. So I think that probably would be an eligible fund and interpreter.
But Ms. Helen, I'm going to research it just a little further just to make sure that we believe it is, but we want to make sure that it is.
And we'll put that as part of the Q&A that gets posted. Anyone else? Any ideas, questions?
Mayor Williams, you want to say anything? I know you got here late, but would you like to say anything? Okay. You didn't say it to this group. But, okay.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? And to answer your question, Ms. Helen, there is a variety of languages that we need to really interpret it for the community of the city of Harrisburg. It just doesn't need to be on 2 or 3 languages. We have about 32 different cultures here. So just alone, the interpretation for the services for city council is a little costly, and so we'll have to use a service that provides all those languages barriers. And otherwise, on the American Rescue Plan Act, it's about money being put out to the public. So for everything that the community puts in writing to us or asks us to do, we will research it very highly and make sure that the money goes out to the public. There's a variety of things that was asked at the last 2 meetings, and during that time we got back to them and said that we can use that money, but it has to be researched. We have to be very specific because we have to use the money according to the plan. If we don't, the federal government requires us to give that money back. So thank you everybody for coming out, and we hope to see you at the next 2 meetings. It's very, very important that if you don't have any questions tonight, please, within the next 3 or 4 days, get that information to us. March 1st is when we do have to do a report, but that's not when we make the final decision. Of course, we have to sit down, of course, with City Council and my administration to come up with a plan on how we're going to utilize all the dollars. Thank you. Anything else, ladies? Okay, you're here tomorrow, 7:30, 5:30? Please come to HMAC, 5:30 tomorrow. That's on 2100 block of 3rd Street, 17? It's 3rd Street. 3rd Street, but what's the block? 1100 block North 3rd Street.